Good afternoon, Chautauqua. What brings you here today? I have a feeling I know what. I am welcome to this next in the Interfaith Lecture Series this week, and day 4 of week 4, and welcome you to the Hall of Philosophy. I'm Eugene Taylor Sutton, a bishop in the Episcopal Church and senior pastor here at Chautauqua. Before introducing today's speaker, Leah Naomi Green, I ask you to please consult the Chautauquan daily newspaper, The Paper of Record, for details about the outstanding and varied programs of the Department of Religion, in addition to those interfaith lectures, Monday through Thursday. I want to highlight such programs as our CHQ Dialogues discussion groups, Mystic Heart Meditation, Islam 101, Courageous Conversations on Death and Dying, Labyrinth Walk, Peace Poll, Healing Services, and all the amazing programs of our 22 denominational houses and religious organizations. Tomorrow, like every Friday at 9 a.m., we have our ecumenical communion service here in the Hall of Philosophy, 9:15, and at 12:30, the Muslim Juma prayer in the Hall of Christ. Yes, this is Chautauqua, the Hall of Christ. And then at 5 p.m., the Hebrew congregation's Shabbat service in the Bell Tower Park. We celebrate the fact here at Chautauqua that everybody and anybody is welcome to attend any of these services to either participate, observe, or learn about what's most dear to these traditions. We hope you feel invited. There's a moderated Q&A following today's lecture, followed by a meet and greet at the Hall of Missions to my left. Please submit your questions online via questions.chq.org or on a slip of paper to our ushers at the conclusion of the lecture. We will also host a joint book signing for Leah Naomi Green and Catherine Wilkinson, this morning's lecturer, immediately following the program, and that is at the Hall of Missions, which is directly to my left. The nearest restrooms are underneath the Hall of Philosophy on the Cookman Avenue side, which is the avenue I am looking at, and assistive listening devices are available. For any additional accommodations, please let one of the ushers know. And finally, get out those little devices and please silence anything that beeps, chirps, sings, or nudges you. And please, no flash photography, which hasn't happened here in 10 years. For those of you joining us via Chautauqua's YouTube channel, thank you. To view live captions during today's lecture, visit captions.chq.org on any internet-connected mobile device. Our religion theme for the week is the ethics of enough, spiritual responses to a throwaway world. Today, we are very honored and pleased to have with us Leah Naomi Green. She is writer in residence at Washington and Lee University in Virginia. She is the author of the book, The More Extravagant Feast, selected by Lee Young Lee for the Walt Whitman Award of the Academy of American Poets, and was named one of the best books of 2020 by the Boston Globe. Green teaches English and environmental studies at Washington and Lee University, as well as online creative writing workshops for Orion Magazine. Her work has appeared or is in the forthcoming in the Paris Review, The Nation, Tin House, the Kenyon Review, Poem a Day, the Virginia Quarterly Review, the Southern Review, Orion, the Georgia Review, Ecotone, and many, many other journals. Green has been featured on National Public Radio's All Things Considered and supported by fellowships and awards from the Civitella, I'm going to work on my Italian, the Civitella Ranieri Foundation, the Bread Loaf Writers Conference, the Sewanee Writers Conference, the Guilford College Sherwood Anderson Visiting Writer Program, and the Lucille Clifton Legacy Award for compassion, courage, truth-telling, and commitment to justice. Today's conversation is made possible by the Richard W. and Dorothy B. Comfort Religious Initiatives Fund, and with the support of the David and Joan Lincoln Family Fund for Applied Ethics, and our very own Chautauqua Climate Change Initiative, which Mark Wensler directs, and people like you. Please join me now in welcoming to the stage Leah Naomi Green.
I am not as tall as he was. It's so great to see you all. Hello. What a beautiful audience. This is better than I ever imagined. This space is somehow intimate and large, and you all are, I wish I could just be talking to each of you. You're all clearly lovely. Thanks for being here. Thank you for having me to Chautauqua. It's such a delight to be here. Thank you, Rob Wilson Black, for inviting me and for guiding me with so much care. And May and Jordan, wherever you are, probably working hard, for all of your help this week. And to Catherine Wilkinson for being such a wonderful friend. And who knows when you're 15 who life will lead you back to. Who knows when you're 40? So thank you. As you'll hear in my talk, my family and I live in the mountains of Virginia. We grow most of our own food, and one of the things we grow there is shiitakes. We have shiitake logs, and yeah, you can applaud for shiitakes if you want to. I love them too. But it's important that I tell you this because I have two daughters. I have an 11-year-old and an 8-year-old, and it's important to them that I mention the shiitakes so that when I get home, they can say, she talked about shiitakes at Chautauqua. That's all they wanted me to do. That's all they care about. So I can go home now and and not be in trouble. Don't just do something, sit there, says Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh. When a Zen master says something, we take it seriously, no matter how funny it is. And with this particular piece of advice, of course, he meant to be funny. And still, we take it seriously, in part because Hanh was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize in 1967 by Martin Luther King Jr. In part because after we laugh, we feel it. The challenge to be still, to really sit. And it is a challenge in many ways more difficult than the challenge to just do something. Thich Nhat Hanh would know. As a young monk in Vietnam during the war, he practiced mindfulness while bombs were dropping around his temple and while caring for children wounded by guns. It was within these conditions that he developed what he called engaged Buddhism, in which the objective was not to transcend the suffering of the world, but to transform it through meditation and mindful action. In the midst of the violence he was experiencing, Hanh recognized that seeds of violence exist within the human mind, in every human mind, even his own, and that when those seeds are watered, they grow roots and branch into conflict and war. In wanting to take the most effective action possible, he took spiritual action. He took spiritual action, but he knew he could not do that deep internal work alone. And so he set about building spiritual community to support the hard work of healing and transformation in himself and in the world. And this is what I find so interesting. This is the catch. Even as we are inspired by the wisest members of our species to find and transform the suffering within ourselves first, and even though that must be a deeply personal pursuit, we know we cannot do it alone. Even when there aren't other people around us, we can't do it alone. I know because I tried. 18 years ago, I moved to an ecological community deep in the woods, in the mountains above the Shenandoah Valley, half an hour from the nearest small town, to write and grow my own food, including shiitakes. I wrote a lot of poems. I grew a lot of food. And I'll tell you, although I got some space from humans, I ended up more interconnected with the rest of the world than ever. That is, more interconnected with the earth systems of soil and water and food that support my life. I didn't become more interconnected with the world when I moved into the woods. I just became better able to see those connections, my inevitable, mycelial interdependence, and I'm so grateful for it. I was asked to talk today on the topic spiritual responses to a throwaway world. When Rob Wilson Black gave me that prompt, I thought, that's everything I've been thinking and teaching about for the last 20 years. I'm so excited. And I am. I'm so excited to talk with you all about that today. I'm not really talking about shiitakes. It's a ruse. I'm a poet, so I will intersperse some of my poems while I read. Meanwhile, I will take you through my thoughts on this topic of spiritual responses to a throwaway world, which will mostly come down to, 1, environmental problems are not problems with the environment, they are problems with humans in the environment. 2, therefore, how we think about ourselves and how we think about the world, in other words, our spiritual responses, have real-world implications. 3, effective action requires real, deep spiritual presence. 4, poetry can be a practice of attention and clarity for effective, connected spiritual responses. And 5, how you can engage right now, even if poetry isn't your thing. Okay, shall we? I love an audience that talks back. It's great. I still live and write in the woods, in our ecological community in Virginia. My husband, Ben, and I are raising our kids there, growing, foraging, and hunting, raising chickens and trout. We drink water from the spring and heat with wood from the forest in which we live and grow shiitakes. Because of this, I am often asked about self-sufficiency, or, quote, living off the grid, by those who are seeking to be more independent from systems that do not support the health of people or planet. And sure, yes, of course that was part of what we were up to when we began our homesteading life. But the great humbling magic of it is that even as we divested what we could from systems of harm, it became startlingly clear through living in close relationship to an ecosystem that there is no such thing as self-sufficiency. My family is not self-sufficient for a million reasons. We are not self-sufficient because, as Ross Gay says, quote, in addition to the fact that we all die, the most salient or unifying feature of we the living is that we cannot survive without help. Gay points out that, quote, whether you like it or not, you are the beneficiary of a largesse so large and so deep, you will never in one lifetime get to the bottom of it. Like it or not, you will never pay it back or settle it up even if you devote your every waking second to the task. And if you ever read a Ross Gay book, you'll see that his acknowledgments page at the back of the book is like as long as the rest of the book, because he takes this seriously. He's like, I didn't think of any of this. I am the beneficiary of everyone else. For me, the garden and woods have been great teachers of this truth, a kind of proof of what Thich Nhat Hanh would call interbeing. I believed in interbeing before I depended directly on a garden, but in the garden, the visible proof is delightful. The seed contains the melon contains the seed. My life is made quite physically of the melon and the apple and the deer that I eat, of the life of the garden and woods. Without them, I have no body. Without my body, my children have no bodies. No gestation, no milk, nothing to eat. This is true everywhere. This is true when you eat fast food or craft dinner in a box, out of a box. The garden and the woods only make the lesson slow enough and clear enough for me to grasp. So, my husband and I started hunting deer. I had been a vegetarian since I was 12, declared rebelliously over a meatball sub sandwich at Subway. My husband and I had both seriously considered ordaining as Buddhist monastics, taking vows, which included the determination not to engage in acts of killing. But hunting deer was a decision on which we were, after much decision, really very clear. In the Shenandoah Valley, where we live, deer are overpopulated due to human habitat fragmentation, among other causes, and this perpetuates imbalances in the ecosystem. Hunting as a source of protein seemed to us a kinder, more responsible environmental act than buying anything shipped to us via fossil fuels. And once we made hunting and fishing part of our lives, the relationships to the deer and trout became some of the most sacred relationships of my life. In these relationships, there's no hiding from the fact that my body's energy comes always from other bodies, animal or vegetable, just as alive as my own, and that my body's energy is forever transferring into other bodies as well, a fact made especially clear through pregnancy and nursing, which is what I wrote my book about, is this transfer of energy from the land to my body, to my children's bodies. This is to say that although deer and trout aren't any more from the earth than the Subway sandwich, because it's all from the earth, where else would anything come from? In the act of killing, processing, and eating the deer, there's no avoiding connection, no ruse of separation. There is no abstraction. Here's an excerpt from the title poem of my book, The More Extravagant Feast. And I promise this whole talk is not about hunting. It's over after this poem. We move on. The More Extravagant Feast. The buck is thawing a halo on the frosted ground, shot in our field pre-dawn. Last night, we pulled a float in the Christmas parade. It was lit by 1,000 tiny lights. My daughter rode in my lap and was thrilled when the float followed us. Ours is a small town. Everyone was there, and their faces, not seeing ours, fixed behind us, were an open sea, a compound sea of seas that parted under our gaze, and Santa was bright, though my daughter shied from the noise of him. She studied the red and white fur of his suit. She woke this morning when the rifle fired outside. I lifted her to see the sunrise and her father kneeling above the buck's body in the middle distance. She asked if they would be cold. I did not understand the offering, but loved it. The fur, red, white, incoherent, somehow cleaner. When I come back in, She asks me to draw a picture of her father on the hill. I pick her up, the miracle of her lungs that grew inside me, kept long dark, her working heart let out into the rounder world, the more extravagant feast. The miracle of her dad on the hill as we draw him in his big coat warm. Afterward, how he and I hold each other differently, feeling the collections of muscles and organs held somehow together. The miracle of bodies formed whole like fruits, skins unruptured and containing the world. Robin Wall Kimmerer, Potawatomi botanist and author, writes about what she calls a gift economy. She emphasizes that what we have long called natural resources might best be thought of as gifts. She says, quote, "When we speak of these not as things or products or commodities, but as gifts, the whole relationship changes. In the presence of such gifts, gratitude is the first intuitive response. Gratitude," she says, "is the thread that connects us in deep relationship, simultaneously physical and spiritual, as our bodies are fed and spirits nourished by the sense of belonging, which is the most vital of foods." Kimmerer says that abundance is real. She points to the sun. She gives the example of photosynthesate, which, she reminds us, quote, "is usually not in short supply, since sun and air are perpetually renewable resources. Of course, sometimes there's not enough rain. That is real scarcity, when the rains don't come, a physical limitation with repercussions that are shared just as abundance is shared. That kind of scarcity," she says, "is not what troubles me. It's manufactured scarcity that I cannot accept." Meanwhile, she points out, quote, "Manufactured scarcity is now causing us to face the danger of producing real scarcity, evident in growing shortages of food and clean water, breathable air, and fertile soil." Now, as we know, as we covered in our roadmap for this talk, environmental problems are not problems with the environment. They are problems with humans in the environment. And unfortunately, in confronting these problems, data is not enough. Data is important. Science is so important. Don't go quoting me saying that science is not important. Science is so important. We absolutely need science, we absolutely need data on how humans are affecting the world. But if data were enough, we'd have solved our environmental problems in the early 80s, when the data on climate change became incontrovertible, when Bill McKibben published The End of Nature in 1989. And I hope many of you got the chance to see Bill speak right here earlier this week. This is to say, there's a missing link between data and behavioral change. We need data, and we also need to look at how humans understand and relate to the more than human world. That is, we need to look at what Chautauqua is calling spiritual responses to the problem. In my own spiritual responses to a throwaway world, I have returned over and over to the essays of Wendell Berry. Any Wendell Berry fans in the crowd? Yes. Good. If not, you might just leave at this point. If you're anti-Wendell Berry. Berry argues that scarcity within industrial economies comes down to the scarcity of satisfaction. He writes, "We have many commodities, but little satisfaction, little sense of the sufficiency of anything." And he refers to satisfaction as, quote, "the industrial economy's most marketed commodity." He points out that this commodity of satisfaction is, quote, "repeatedly promised, bought, and paid for, but is never delivered." Let's imagine, for instance, that you have ordered a product from Amazon. forgive us all, which doesn't arrive on time. And though you wait for it day after day, the package, in fact, never arrives. What do? Do you go and buy it again? And then when that package never arrives, order it again and again, believing that this time it will be delivered, although it never is? This, Barry says, is what we do with the promise of satisfaction. Satisfaction is continually promised to us via products we keep buying and paying for dearly with the little time we have together on earth. And yet, that promised satisfaction is never delivered. On the other hand, Barry reminds us, people who have much satisfaction do not need many commodities. Barry says of the throwaway world, if things do not last, are not made to last, they can have no histories, and we who use those things can have no memories. He writes that we do not cherish the memory of shoddy and transitory objects, and so we do not remember them. That is to say, we do not invest in them the lasting respect and admiration that make for satisfaction. Chautauqua is, of course, a place where it's obvious that people have invested the lasting respect and admiration that make for satisfaction. Wendell Berry does not shy from pointing out that most suppliers would not want the histories of their products to be known. He writes that, quote, where there is no reliable accounting and therefore no competent knowledge of the economic and ecological effects of our lives, we cannot live lives that are economically and ecologically responsible. Let's take a break here for etymology, shall we? I'm a sucker for etymology. I like words. You can't be a poet if you don't like words. So as many of you may know, these two words, economy and ecology, share a root. Anybody already know this? Oh, good, I'm teaching you something. Some of you know this. So that root is the Greek word oikos, which turns out does not mean yogurt. Although the industrial economy would have us believe that it did. Anybody know what it does mean? Any? Household, yes, I heard it somewhere. Thank you. Collective wisdom. Yes, so this word oikos in Greek means household. And it's the root of economy and ecology. This oikos becomes eco. Because both of these concepts are rooted in the exchange of goods and services, or the exchange of what Thoreau, I think more accurately, named amounts of life. And that's worth pausing on, right? Like, that's really beautiful, amounts of life. Like, can you imagine a more accurate name for the economic, ecological exchanges between beings on Earth? It's decent. In a discussion of spiritual responses to a throwaway world, why might this link of economy and ecology matter? Well, Wendell Berry comes to mind. And I think of Berry's critique of Walt Whitman. And I love Walt Whitman. Let me just be clear, he's my guy. Berry writes, Walt Whitman could say, I think I could turn and live with the animals, as if he did not know that, in fact, we do live with the animals, and that the terms of our relationship to them are inescapably established by our economic uses of their and our world. So long as we live, Berry writes, we are going to be living with skylarks, nightingales, daffodils, waterfowl, streams, forests, mountains, and all the other creatures that romantic poets and artists have yearned towards. And by the way we live, we will determine whether or not those creatures live. I love Whitman. He's basically my favorite guy. Sorry, Ben. He's my second favorite guy. And I love this conversation that he and Wendell Berry have through time and space about economy and ecology. Berry's insight is that of a very smart farmer, which of course is exactly what he is. He sees that it simply won't work to attempt to separate ecology from economy. Of course, this is what he's saying. He's saying, of course, the welfare of the earth seems optional to producers, consumers, voters, etc. Environmental concerns have historically been presented as somehow separate from our daily needs. That is, they've been historically represented as somehow separate from our household's needs. That is, from our economic, ecological needs. Barry's life as a farmer made that quite clear to him, that ecology is, of course, the only economy, the only source of all our needs. Where else, he makes us ask again, do we think anything comes from? This is where, in my own life, I began to see how my beliefs affect the world and how my spiritual responses to a throwaway world might actually help keep that world from being thrown away. Because this is where I began to realize that there is no capital N nature that we can protect that is separate from the resources we use. That there are not two worlds, a natural world to somehow be separated from a human world, but there is only one world. And it's within that one world that everything must come and go, every product, every tree, every human. It is in this one world and from it that we all must live. There are no walls on this household. And the great household exchange can be one of gratitude and deep responsibility. And here I intend a pun. I warned you that I love words. Responsibility, the ability to respond with care within that exchange. A word like nature had, for much of my life, enabled me to put distance between myself and my consumption, as well as to put distance between myself and gratitude for the gifts I constantly receive. I could stay in suburbia and consume, and then I could go out into nature and reflect or be on vacation. Wendell Berry wants to know, as we do, how we might live in and from this world in ways that will contribute to, rather than detract from, its life. For starts, he says, we must change our language. We must move away from what he calls the hazy glamour of such phrases as the global economy and cultivate a much more diverse and particularizing vocabulary, such as community, ecosystem, watershed, place, homeland, family, household. In his lovable, curmudgeonly genius, he calls these words you can actually think with. So then, here are some words which I can hope you can actually think with from my poem, Narration Transubstantiation. Narration Transubstantiation. And this also has an epigraph. I didn't explain this in the morning talk, but epigraphs are those little bits of quotes that come before poems. Those are called epigraphs. And this one reads, God is an infinite sphere, the center of which is everywhere, the circumference nowhere. 1. The peony, which was not open this morning, has opened, falling over its edges like the circumference of God, still clasped at the center. My 2-month-old daughter's hand in palmar reflex, having endured from the apes, ontogeny, recapitulating phylogeny, clutching for fur. Her face is always tilted up when I carry her, her eyes always blue. She is asking nothing of the sky, nothing of the pileated woodpeckers, their directionless wings, directed bodies, the unmoved moving. 2. Hold still, song of the wood thrush, smell of the creek, and the locust flowers, white as wafers on the branches, communion, pistil, stamen, bee, hold still. She doesn't say a word. 3. When we eat, what we eat is the body of the world. Also when we do not eat. She is asking the sky for milk. Take and eat, we tell her. This is my body, which is given for you, who are here now, though you are not. Though you will be old, then absent again, sad to us, thinking forward in time but not back, not sad to you at all. The peony whose circumference is everywhere, you whose head now is weighted to my chest, the creek stringing its lights along next to us, the peony which has opened. I really appreciate those of you who are closing your eyes at any point in this talk. Feel free to do that. If you get anything out of this talk, may it be a moment of peace. Here's one of my favorite things that Wendell Berry says. He says, people exploit what they have merely concluded to be of value, but they defend what they love. And to defend what we love, we need a particularizing language, for we love what we particularly know. And so we arrive, as surely you knew we would, to the importance of poetry. Because poetry is, along with the woods and garden, one of the best teachers I've had in particularizing language in order to love what we particularly know. As Mary Oliver says it, I don't know exactly what a prayer is. I do know how to pay attention. Poetry is concentrated attention. We feel the power of concentrated attention when we read a poem. We feel it when we write one. A poem offers that power even if it is never published or shared. Just the act of writing a poem has that power. Poetry translates abstract ideas and feelings into concrete imagery and experience. It translates the general to the specific, and then translates the specific to the universal. Poetry locates a specific person in a body, in a place, and connects that person necessarily to all bodies in all places. That translation from the general to the specific to the universal was the guiding principle in writing this next poem called Somewhere She's Learned. This one's short. Somewhere she's learned that color is not color. The red flower, she tells me, absorbs all light but red, so reflects red where she and I can see it. Daughter, I call her, pulse, prism of many faces I remember, so many I don't. You are particular, wave of the deep ocean, and she absorbs it all, except daughter, which reflects back to my eye, radiant and factual as any prayer, named for the very thing it cannot hold. When you read another person's poem, says Ada Limon, 24th poet of the US, you are entering into their music. You're entering into their breath. It's oddly intimate. We can inhabit each other's lives just by reading a poem aloud, she says. It's this intimacy that prevents us from being alone. Perhaps more than ever before, Lamone says, these uncertain times require the humanity that poetry offers. And one beautiful thing about that kind of attention is that it makes room, as Lamone says, for how different we all are. Even as it connects us, it does that. She recalls asking the neuroscientist Heather Berlin what, in all her research, has surprised her most about the brain. Berlin's response, what surprised her most is, quote, that anyone gets along at all. Or that anyone can be in relationship with anyone else because our brains are so different. Lamone asks, if we are built so differently, why on earth are we trying to be the same? We aren't supposed to be the same, she says. We aren't supposed to write the same. We aren't supposed to make the same art or have the same beliefs or love the same things or love the same way or worship the same way or speak the same way. This particularization is, I hope we can see, the same thing that Barry is saying about place. Barry warns that globalization will, quote, destroy local adaptation everywhere by ignoring the uniqueness of every place. He contrasts this with local economies, which are founded on respect for such uniqueness. This kind of particular knowledge of individual people and places requires particularized attention to both where and who we are. It requires us to slow down enough to notice where and who we are, and to ask ourselves what makes the geode of our minds, as Lamone calls it, unique and beautiful. To ask ourselves what we, in particular, can offer the world, and how our minds might work in ecological connection for the greater health of us all. This is a call to action. This kind of action requires presence where you are. Presence is resistance, is choice, is the only place where I can make the choice to not throw the world away. There are countless things you can accidentally spend your life on. There are also countless moments in which you can re-enter intimacy with life. Countless moments in which you can come back to presence within your life. Now, for instance, or now. If we are interested in spiritual responses to a throwaway world, and if you want advice, I'd say a good place to start is to get your senses involved as much as you can. Find ways to make yourself have to feel your interdependencies with the world. You can start engaging your senses at dinner tonight. You can, as Psalm 34 says, taste and see. And of course, as you're eating this week, I hope that you will taste. Eating meditation can be a wonderful way in to the present. If we let it, eating can bring us back immediately to what our bodies are experiencing in the here and now. And at least at Chautauqua, what our bodies are experiencing when we eat is joy and taste. Why not be there for the explosion in the mouth that says miracle, that says you can eat the earth, that says, get this, what you need in order to have a literal life grows in sunlight, is made of sun and soil and rain, that says corn, says watermelon, says every time you chew, you join your body to everything that has ever lived, says your body can turn sunlight into energy, and then asks, what will you do with that energy? Ecological issues come, more or less, down to the question, where does it come from and where does it go? These are questions that connect us to a world larger than ourselves, not out of guilt for needing to eat, but in gratitude and joy. And guilt is, of course, a natural thing to feel. I just used the word natural after critiquing the word natural, but we can talk about that later. Guilt is a natural thing to feel, but guilt in relationship to the earth is just like guilt in any relationship. If we water the seed of guilt, it may turn into defensiveness or avoidance and may keep us from reconnecting with the one we feel we have harmed. If embarrassment for our actions as humans turns into defensiveness or avoidance of our relationship with the earth, well, that's not what the earth needs for repair. My advice as to what you can do towards repair today: reconnect. Taste the food and the sun and the rain that are in the food. Close your eyes and taste it. Taste your connection to every other living and once living and someday to be living thing. As the father of ecology, Aldo Leopold, says it, we can be ethical only in relation to something we can see, feel, understand, love, or otherwise have faith in. Our senses bring us back to what is here, what is already here, and what is here is so much. Ezra Pound writes, "Pull down thy vanity. It is not man made courage or made order or made grace. Pull down thy vanity, I say pull down. Learn of the green world that can be thy place." For those of you who want poems to rhyme, I thought I'd put in one rhyming one. And if we don't interact with our senses, it is in fact very difficult to be in ethical relationship. I'm thinking here of my undergraduate student who told me recently that he likes to get food at gas stations because he can order on an app and, quote, never have to interact with anyone. There are ecological implications to the loneliness epidemic. Until we realize that we need connection to survive, abstract ideas like environmentalism will always feel optional, not as crucial as the needs of what we consider to be our household. When we begin to see and feel and taste what Leopold calls enlightened self-interest, what Thich Nhat Hanh calls interbeing, the imaginary walls come off of our household, our oikos, and we see that our flourishing and health, our very lives, depend on the flourishing and health of the world. We have a choice to connect our minds, our spirits, to that larger household with which our bodies are connected. That choice cannot be made out of guilt about the past or anxiety about the future. That choice can only be made in the present. I love the way Joanna Macy says it, quote, "All those questions, even the question of hope, bring us out of the present moment. And the present moment is the only place you're present, the only place where you can actually choose." Or, as I recently heard a Buddhist nun say, "The present is where I know what to do." I was so struck by that phrase that I wrote a poem. "The present is where I know what to do." That's the title of the poem. I stole it from the nun. Nuns are wonderful because you can steal things from them and they don't care because it wasn't theirs to begin with. No, she's my friend. It's okay. We talked about it. The present is where I know what to do. And if my eyes rail against if the worst will happen, then I cannot help it to not happen. Then if is what I see, child, and not your face at all. If is not a place. It's all the senses clear-cut. If we do save the earth and still don't know how to be alive while she's alive, then what have we saved? And if I cannot be with her while I am with her, then I will never be able to save her enough times. Here is a place. Beach, branch, leaf, her face. Here is what I want, the only place I know what to do. We live in a time when the most common method for throwing away the world is distraction. We can resist that. We can remember that we are connected and here and alive. Meditation and prayer are not about escaping. They are the opposite of distraction. They are about being truly here so that you can choose. In distraction, we throw away the world and our lives. In the present, we keep and care for both. In the present, we can connect. Connection is also resistance, and so it's already begun. With our connection to the present moment, to the fact and miracle that we are alive right now and breathing, and its connection to the present that allows us to connect with others, the people sitting next to you right now, the trees, the sunlight, the lake. Remembering that how we live will determine how they live. Being present and available for connection to those others allows us to feel when they are well and to feel when they are not. What has happened has happened. What will or won't happen has not yet happened. The question is, what can I do now to love my beloved places and people? What can I do now for their world? We are so lucky to be here this week, in this beautiful place. We see systems that still function. We can see them, the sprouting acorns in the woods, the soil, the streams, the lake, the lives of animals and plants that have evolved in response to one another's needs. They are the systems we are all depending on to provide the unbelievable miracle that is food, the irreplaceable need that is water. These systems are everywhere, no matter how visible. They are large and deep, and we are integral to them, able to give and receive. Our relationship to these systems, like any relationship that endures, is both responsibility and gift. They are still carrying us. We can still let them. So, don't just do something, sit there. And as you sit there, know that there is a you to sit because of the sun and the rain and the plants and the other animals. And because of you, there can continue to be life for them. And then when it is time to get up, to do something, you will have more clarity on what to do. You will be able to do something without just doing something. I want to leave you with one more thought from Wendell Berry. Berry writes, "We have lived by the assumption that what was good for us would be good for the world. We have been wrong. We must change our lives so that it will be possible to live by the contrary assumption that what is good for the world will be good for us. And that requires that we make the effort to know the world and to learn what is good for it." Thank you, everyone, for your time and attention. They are your most valuable resources. May we use them well.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Leah. As we transition to question and answer period, you can submit your questions online through questions.chu.org, or if you would like to submit a written question, please raise your hand, and one of our ushers or Department of Religion staff will bring you a pencil and a slip of paper. Professor Green, you've said so many wonderful things, including about the present is where I know what to do, and that's a mystical statement. And some of us remember in Benedictine spirituality, the most ancient prayer was "Be present, be present." So the question then: your life in Virginia sounds very spiritual. But many of us here, and this person lives in New York City, many of us here live in Pittsburgh and Cleveland and Washington, D.C., in cities where is it difficult to achieve the same sense of spirituality and the same sense of self-sustaining for those of us who live in cities?
Well, the most honest answer is I don't know. Because I don't live in a city. But I do know that everything you eat and drink in a city comes from the earth. And they're not separate worlds. The world I live in is not separate from New York City or DC. I also know that the present moment is alive and well in the cities. My same nun friend who did say the present is where I know what to do. That was her wisdom, not mine. I was just telling Catherine this yesterday, she, even as a nun in a peaceful hamlet in France where she lives now, she misses walking, doing meditation while walking through the streets of London where she once lived. You know, like this present moment is everywhere. And hopefully the takeaway from my talk is that the present moment is the key, not living in the woods, because we can't all live in the woods. We don't all want to live in the woods. I get that. You don't all want to skin a deer, believe me. But the present moment is everywhere. And I feel very grateful to see it, to be able to see those systems and interact with them in my senses. And so I do recommend getting your senses involved however you can, but that can absolutely be done with a carrot bought in New York City. It doesn't.
And I remember, actually, I was walking with Thich Nhat Hanh in the middle of congested New York City, and he found so much peace there in the middle of Fifth Avenue. There are 8.3 billion people in the world. A century ago, in 1925, there were 2 billion people. Is there enough in the world for 8.3 billion people?
There are economists who can answer that in different ways than I can answer that. One of them might be sitting right here. I don't know. I do know that that there are many individuals in this world who are using way more than we need. And whether there is enough for all of us would be a much easier question to answer if we gave it a try.
Yes. We have some modern day philosophers. Do you agree with Kermit the Frog? That it's
Yes,
not easy.
The answer is yes.
It's not easy being green?
I love whoever wrote that question. Thank you for reading it. We're going to go with yes. Because it's not easy being human or frog, turns out. Yeah.
There was another philosopher, Sir Mick Jagger, once saying, I can't get no satisfaction. Well, you don't have to answer that. Whether or not you can. Human beings have always been polluters, right? Or are we polluting more than our ancestors, or is it just about numbers?
It probably depends on who your ancestors were, in part. There are different cultures, obviously, and my brother is a neuroscientist, and so he has convinced me, he and Thich Nhat Hanh have convinced me that the human mind only has so much variation, although, as Heather Berlin says, brains are super different. But humans are going to be human. Humans have humaned since humans started humaning. And yet, of course, our cultures affect how we human. So I think that we have some excellent examples of having seen humaning done well by certain cultures in certain places. Those don't tend to be the cultures that take over the world.
Mm-hmm. Yes. There was a book, 2021 book, Humankind, A Hopeful History. It was written by Rutger Bregman. The thesis was that human beings, Homo sapiens, survived because we're hardwired for kindness and cooperation. And that's why Homo sapiens overtook the pre-human species, Java man. Do you agree with that? That we are hardwired for cooperation and kindness, so that when we are not doing that, we are not being fully human?
Well, I do agree that we won't survive without it. I don't know what it means to be fully human, but I do. It's very clear, I hope, to all of us after this week that we're not going to survive if we don't have cooperation and kindness, right? These are the seeds in our consciousness, to use Thich Nhat Hanh's metaphor. It's really the Buddha's metaphor. These are the kindness seed, the cooperation seed. Those are the ones to water for survival. We have the other seeds too. We have the greed and the violence. We don't have to water those.
Bill Gates, yes, thank you. This fact has not been checked, but this writer says Bill Gates was recently quoted that climate change will not lead to humanity's demise. He also advised leaders to focus on improving lives. Isn't that more practical than trying to fight climate change?
I'd rather talk to Kermit the Frog and Mick Jagger. I guess the one thing about that I feel I can respond to, and because obviously Bill Gates has flip-flopped on that, right? And the question is, why did he flip-flop? But the thing about that I think I could respond to is that I don't think the end of the world is coming. I don't think that it's like, then there's a ball of fire and we're all done. That's not what we're looking at, right? We're looking at the possibility that things will be very different and harder. And people are amazing, and people already live and survive in extremely hard circumstances, right? And so maybe I can agree and disagree with Mr. Gates. I don't think Mr. Gates cares what I have to say, but
Well, he may be listening.
But Kermit does. Me and Kermit were close.
What does it take to grow a shiitake, and can I do it?
I did mention it 3 times. Well, really, you should talk to my husband, Ben, who's in the back row.
Ben, get up here.
But you need an oak log. You need to soak the oak logs. You need to inoculate the oak logs with shiitake spores. And then you need a lot of patience. And some daughters who can go harvest them for you. And then make you write a talk about them.
Those were easy. Here's a hard one. If humans are nature and we evolved to harm ourselves and the rest of nature, then harming and healing are both part of nature. So if it's nature all the way down, why elevate nature or decry its devastation?
Amen. I don't know who wrote that, but yes. My answer is yes. I think that this word and concept of nature are ultimately really unhelpful. Like, I don't I think that that's a great point. I think that the idea of nature, like I actually really like Thoreau and Emerson, but I think they led us on a weird path with this focus on nature. I think that it has created an American environmentalism that is overly focused on having things we protect and places that are protected. Don't get me wrong, I love national parks. I love state parks. But we're very focused on cordoning off some areas which we call sacred and then going nuts in the cities and forgetting that we're still living on Earth and living from nature. There aren't two worlds. There's not nature and society. Like, there's just one world. So, yes.
What is poetry, and who is a poet, and how can I become one? Kwame Alexander. Oh, no. We're not supposed to say.
All right, Kwame, come up. I don't know who wrote that, but you're already there. Just write. Just start writing.
He did not write that.
No, I know Kwame Alexander did not write that, but did someone write that? Is that a real question? I cannot answer those questions. I think that you should read poetry. I think that you should write poetry. How do you get good at anything? You do it.
Okay, we have time for 2 more questions for our book signing. Do you have hope for the future? How much hope?
How much?
Yeah, the amount.
A metric.
Of life and.
I am a hopeful, optimistic person. So I think my honest answer for myself is yes. I also really find what Joanna Macy says to be very helpful, that even the idea of hope pulls us out of the present, right? That hope. I have a monk friend. I hang out with monastics. It's my favorite place to be. So I have a monk friend who was recently asked about whether meditation is a form of spiritual bypassing. What a question. And he said, it can be. He said, so can anger, so can action, right? I think hope is one of these things that can be a form of bypassing. But what he said is that anytime we are truly present with what we're feeling, we are not spiritually bypassing. So I think if you feel hope, as I do, and you're really present with it, and you're acting from it, great, thank you, we need that. If you're feeling despair, be present with it. Don't bypass it to watch Netflix. Don't bypass it to meditate. Be with it. Yeah.
And then a last question, an inner spiritual question for you. What drives you to do the work you do?
You mean mothering, growing food, parenting, you mean writing, don't you? Yeah. I can't not write. Like, I can't not. If I stop writing, I feel bad. And I think any of you who were at Catherine Wilkinson's talk this morning, this is very much what she was trying to steer us towards, right? Is like, what is the thing that makes you come alive? Or as Parker Palmer says it, right? Where does your greatest passion meet the world's greatest need? Mm-hmm. And I got unlucky enough that my greatest passion was poetry, which is not a super marketable skill. And yet, here we are. So yeah, I don't think there are a lot of poets out there who do it for any reason other than that they have to. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you, Leah Naomi Green. You can